All right, let's get started. So, self-sabotage. You're afraid of the life trading will give you. In this video, I'm going to debunk why we self-sabotage ourselves in our trades, i.e. blowing up an account one day before a payout or blowing up accounts right after a payout, right? I'm going to take an interesting angle on this where I think that self-sabotage, and I stole this idea too, by the way, and I'll tell you who I stole it from and all that at the end of the video. But I think that self-sabotage is pretty much a way that we use in order to kind of get ourselves out of accepting responsibility and the duties of somebody who is very successful and have a lot of successes and a lot of things that they have to steward, okay, or take care of, right? So we self-sabotage ourselves in order to get out of the major responsibility that we don't think that we can adhere to because we probably think less of ourselves, okay? And that's exactly what fucks up our trading and why we can't become 6, 7, 8-figure traders, or why we simply can't get to a payout, or once we hit a payout we blow up completely after that, okay? So I'm going to take a lot of different interesting takes on this. I want you to break out your notebook, take some notes, and also you can download this document in the description below if you like it, okay? So you're afraid of the life trading will give you. All right. So I know a lot of us have been here where we get the best email we can ever get where it says, "Hi, Lawrence, congratulations on your payout." And then immediately after, every trader makes mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like it's actually a very thin line between the two. Okay. So that brings me to the reason why you blow up your account is because you aren't deserving of it. Not because I think so, but because you think so. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so first thing is, what is self-sabotage, right? That's what we're going to start this off at. What is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is when your actions, and this is the textbook definition, and then I'm going to go back to the definition that I gave you, right? So the textbook definition is self-sabotage is when your actions contradict your goals, and most times you're unaware of it. But 9 times out of 10, you probably are aware of it, because in order for you to be a trader, you got to take a lot of accountability and you got to have some type of awareness over yourself to continue to do this, right? Because if you think about it, if you didn't have any accountability and if you weren't aware, you're going to continuously blame the market until you lose so much money that you think trading is a scam and then you quit. But you continue to trade even though you're hemorrhaging money because you know that it's something that you're doing, not necessarily the market. And a lot of us already know what we're doing, right? A lot of times it's psychological problems, or even on a deeper level, spiritual problems, okay? And we're going to talk about all of that. So, like I said, if you want to download this document, the link is in the description below, something that you can keep for your records, all right? And you can review without watching a 45-hour-long video, however long this video is going to be. All right, so number 1, the internal rule book you didn't know you were following. Self-sabotage isn't random. It's your subconscious executing old rules that contradict your new life. You say you want success, but you behave like the version of you who doesn't want it. Your actions, impulses, and reactions are running an outdated identity. Until you update that internal rule book, you'll keep playing a losing game no matter how good your trading system is. So all this is saying, right, is that there is a cognitive dissonance, right? There's a friction or a conflict between who you're trying to be and who you are, what you know and what you're doing, right? And a lot of us have problems trying to, what's the word? Alignment. That's the word. So a lot of us have problems trying to obtain that alignment, and we're going to talk about this, right? Because at the end of the day, if you've been conditioned to think of losing as failures, think of losing as a step back or several steps back away from your goals and the type of life you want to live and all that type of stuff. You see losing as several steps back. So that's why every individual trading outcome that ends in a loss or a red P&L sends you on tilt, because you don't want to go back, or you perceive that you're going back from where you actually started before you even entered the trading session, right? And you don't want to backtrack. You want to go forward. So every time you win a trade, that is a sign that you're moving forward And then every time you lose a trade, you perceive it as a sign as you moving back. But the fact of the matter is that I say this pretty much every video. Losing is nothing. Losing your trades, as long as you're executing it properly and as long as you have a profitable system, losing your trades is nothing more than a door you have to walk through in order to get your winning trades. You understand what I'm saying? So if you have a 70% win rate and a 30% loss rate, how the hell can you meet your 70% win rate if you don't lose 30%? Right? Because if you lose 20%, then you'll have an 80% win rate. Even though that's better than 70, that's not your system. And if you have a 40% loss rate, that means you have a 60% win rate, which is not your 70. You see what I'm saying? So if you know through back testing thousands of times, yes, thousands of times, if you have a 70% win rate and a 30% loss rate, you have to go through the 30% of losers to reach your 70% that will push your account forward. Okay. But if you tweak out and you go on this emotional, volatile spin and go on tilt because you can't fade to 30%, you'll never reach the 70% that will push your account forward, that will compound your profits, leading you to whatever you're trying to go as to why you started trading in the first place. Okay. And the thing that is stopping you from this is the fact that you have to grow as a person, right? You have to grow as a person, but you're so used to being somebody who isn't used to making heavy decisions that decides your fate almost immediately. And even if you make the right decisions, you may still lose a trade and you perceive that loss as a threat, right? And that's why you go on tilt. That's why you go in fight or flight mode, where you either become fearful, right? Flight, you become fearful and you don't want to trade, and you think about previous trades that make you hesitate on entering this trade, or you enter fight, which means you're fighting the market, you're over trading, over leveraging, trying to get back and claw your way back and inflict your will on the market, trying to get back to where you were or even further, okay? Which both leads to catastrophe and trading failure, all right? So that's number one. Number two, in the making, identity equals a perpetual cycle. I want everybody, write this down. Write this down if you can. I mean, obviously I got the doc that you can download, but it's good to write things down because it'll stick in your brain, right? Because this is critical. This is critical. You keep yourself in the identity of I'm becoming a successful trader instead of being one now. This delays success because your subconscious requires proof before it lets you receive results. You act as if success must show up first before you allow yourself to believe it. And what is the proof? Money, houses, cars, clothes, hoes. You're waiting for your world to change you, right? You're waiting for your world to change to show you. You live in endless setup, never in execution. That's a bar, right? So what I'm saying here is at any given moment, you can choose to be a successful trader because you know how to execute your system. You know what your rules are, you know what your risk management rules are, and you know how to become a successful trader. You're just waiting for materialistic things, right? Like money, houses, cars, clothes, and hoes to validate you and let you know that you're that person, instead of you actually telling yourself you're that person and following through and then letting everything else catch up to you, okay? So you can decide at any given second that you are a successful trader and disconnect from what your world is showing you. And check out my last video. I talked about this. It's very hard to believe that you're a successful trader when every morning you wake up in the same environment and you check your bank account and it's on zero, and all these constant reminders that you are not who you think you are. But once you can disconnect and stop believing or stop perceiving your outside world as threats to who you want to become, right? These are reinforcers that's going to reinforce the idea that you are not who you're trying to be, but at any given second, you can choose to be that person. Really. You really can. And once you act on it and maintain it for a certain period of time, everything else is going to catch up, right? You want your outside world to reflect who you are. You don't want to reflect what the outside world is showing you, okay? So because of this, and you're always saying, I just need to be disciplined. Oh, I just need time. Oh, I'm just becoming a successful trader. The reason why you keep saying I'm becoming, I'm trying, I just need to, right? It's because you're waiting for these things to validate you instead of you saying, you know what, starting today, I'm going to follow my rules and I am a successful trader. Starting today, I will always have standards whenever I go into the marketplace. Starting today, if I don't see what I want to see, then I will not take a trade, right? And I'm not going to accept the scraps that the market is giving me. It's either we're going to trade on my terms and the market is going to show me my exact setup, high quality, or I'm not taking no trade, period. You see what I'm saying? You have to be the director of your own life. You got to be the director whenever you're going into these sessions, and you have to know your expectations for the day, and you need to know what will make today a good session. And you gotta consciously and be intentional and be deliberate with every decision that you make moving forward. And that right there, being deliberate, right? Being like pretty much what's the word? Being intentional. Sorry. So being deliberate, being intentional, every single day on a consistent basis. Those things right there, that's a lot of accountability. And that can scare a lot of people because a lot of people think that they cannot live up to that. Or even if they do live up to that, there's going to be days where they mess up. And that day that they mess up, they're just going to like kind of exaggerate it and make it seem like there's no room to fuck up as a human. All right. So as long as you continuously say that I'm becoming a successful trader instead of actually deciding today at this second that you are, you will forever be in this cycle of trying to be a successful trader, which means you'll never become one. Because at the fact of the matter is, as long as you're trying to become one, you will never be one. So therefore, there's nothing for your world or those material things to catch up to because you're not it. Hope that made sense. Okay. So, number 3, reverting to your old self equals returning to your old account size. You don't blow up before success. You simply revert back to the version of you that's comfortable. The broke version, the losing version, the low responsibility version of yourself. Words are hard. Your subconscious prefers the pain it knows over the uncertainty of success it doesn't know. That's nasty. Your subconscious prefers the pain it knows over the uncertainty of success it doesn't know. So basically, you're okay with being the losing version of yourself with low responsibilities, not only because it's easy, but because it's familiar. Okay? Because in order for you to be a successful trader, 1, you got to decide, and 2, you have to be adaptable to the changes that comes with and the responsibilities that come with it. Okay. And I think that right there, that is the core piece or the core reason why we self-sabotage. Not because we don't want to see success, not because we don't want to be rich, but because we're afraid of the responsibilities and the changes that come with it that's going to bring us out of the current situation that we're in, that we're comfortable with. Okay. So you fall back to your baseline, not because of failure, but because you're scared to change and handle what comes with it. All right. Number 4, fear of success. So you're not scared of success. You're scared of what success demands. Success means responsibility, weight, expectation, pressure. It requires maturity, discipline, and the conviction to even maintain all of that. It's a lot to ask. It is, but you're built for it. So you got to step up to the plate. You're not afraid of winning. You're afraid of carrying the load that comes with winning. All right. It's like being terrified to size up because larger contract size means every decision suddenly matters. When you're trading with like $15, right? You're risking $15. You're like, oh, it's only $15. Let me go ahead and try this trade. But if you're trading with the risk size of $15,000, oh, you might feel some pressure. You might feel it, right? And the fact of the matter is, if we can shift from a perspective of treating $15 like that 15,000, right? If we get into that shift of treating our first like our last and our last like our first, and not even worry about the money, but be connected to the process and be connected to our controllables, will alleviate a lot of that pressure. It will alleviate a lot of it, because at this point, we're not thinking about money. We're not thinking about the risk. We're not thinking about any of that. All we're focused on and attached to is our system. Okay. My risk size is 3% of my account. Check. step by step by step of my setup leading to my entry, right? I enter the trade. Stop loss is where it needs to be. Take profit is where it needs to be. That's the setup. That's the plan. I achieved it. That's it. Has nothing to do with the money. All right. So please understand that when it comes to self-sabotage, you're not afraid of winning. You're not afraid of success. You're just afraid of carrying the load that comes with it. Okay. No diddy. The weight of responsibility. The more success you gain, the more responsibility you must carry. Your decisions become heavier only because you interpret them as heavier. If responsibility feels like a burden, you'll sabotage yourself to escape it. Interpreting responsibility as light frees you from the emotional margin call. You see what I'm saying? So basically what I'm getting at is things are only as big as you make them. That's for trading and that's for life, right? If you tell yourself that, all right, I got to take care of this, I got to take care of that, no problem, I can do it. Versus, damn, I got to wake up every single day and adhere to these responsibilities. Man, what if I fuck up? What if I, that, X, Y, and Z? It's only as big as you make it, bro. Perspective is everything. How you see yourself is everything, right? It's almost like trading 10 contracts, right? Like trading 10 contracts feels heavy until your identity normalizes it. Then it's just another day at the office. Okay. And I guess on a technical aspect or a trading aspect, as you slowly size up your risk and you're doing well, you slowly size up, right? Okay. And then you get to a point where you may encounter a huge drawdown or you blow the account, whatever you was risking at that time, right? Or how many number of trades that you took within one session, that is where your mental capital is. Your mental cap, right? And your trading account balance will always revert back to your mental account balance. Wherever your mental cap is, that's where your trading cap is going to be. So the more you work on self-mastery and the more you work on yourself and you learn to trust yourself, and that's why breaking your trading rules is more costly than you think. It's not every time you break your trading rules, it's not about the money. It's about pretty much annihilating your self-trust, right? Trusting yourself to execute every day, because there is nothing scarier than walking into a session not knowing what you're going to do because you don't have any self-control and you're unpredictable. There's nothing scarier than that. So every time you break your rules and bend your rules, it's far more pricey than you think it is. It's not worth that $5,000 you had. It's worth your mental cap, right? And that's where your trading cap is every time you break your rules. So just remember that. All right. Number 6. End all be all mindset. Once you get the payout, you'll lose your purpose. You're so fixated on reaching the goal that you haven't defined what happens after it. Without direction, success feels like a dead end, and words are hard, and your subconscious avoids dead ends. So basically what I'm saying here is that there's multiple points here. The first thing is we pedestalize getting paid out. We pedestalize that. And the worst part about putting anything on a pedestal, right, is that you're putting it above you. It's on a pedestal. It's above you. So that means you're either pursuing something. In order to pursue something, it has to go the opposite direction of you, right? And then on top of that, you're not seeing yourself as equal. Like, what are you pedestalizing, right? Because it's like, okay, you get one payout and yes, I finally got it. Once you do that, you realize that it was probably just a lucky run because you're not leveled out with it. You're not equal to it. So you just got something that you're just going to have to continue to chase over and over, which creates that perpetual loop because you don't see yourself as being equal and you haven't normalized it to a point where you got one payout and you're like, all right, cool. I expect this. I followed my rules. I followed my system. I mean, that's going to be the end result, really. Well, not the end result because you never want it to be an end result, but that's going to be the byproduct of me respecting my rules and continue to grow and being better. Because as long as you continue to focus on being better and self-mastery and growing as a trader, right, there's not going to be a cap. That's just an infinite thing. When you attach yourself to your internal state and who you are and trying to be a better trader and a better person, there's always going to be new steps every single step of the way until you die, And I ain't trying to make that too dark, but that's the truth, which goes to show that If the upside is infinite, that means your trading potential is infinite as well. So don't pedestalize and don't focus on payouts and outcomes, because as you're pedestalizing it and as you're chasing it, that just means you're not equal. And as you're chasing, that means it's going the opposite direction of you. So now what we want to do is we want to just see payouts as a bystander for as a byproduct for us, following our rules, and also not being a chaser, but making ourselves attractive to welcome trading success. And the way that we make ourselves attractive is being a steward of our current successes by continuously implementing this system and being convicted in our system over and over again, and yet alone seeing ourselves as somebody who does so, because that's just the standard that we have for ourselves. All right. So if you have nowhere to go after the win, you'll never let yourself win. That is another key component when it comes to self-sabotage. Because if you pedestalize this payout and then you obtain it, what happens? What happens? Because you got it, is the game over? Or do you realize that the moment, if you're one day away from a payout and you realize the moment that you get this payout that the journey is over, you're probably going to blow up just so you can continue to have something to go after, right? So that's just something to think about. It's like taking a trade with no plan after take profit. You freeze, don't take profit, and let the whole move pass until it reverses and stops you out. Now it gives you something, it gives you a purpose. Now it gives you something to go for again, right? It's like a dog chasing its tail when chasing a car or something. You're just going to keep on going, and then once you get it, what's next, right? That's why you want to attach yourself to your own progress and your own growth, because there is no cap on your own growth, right? That's more reliable to attach yourself to. So, number 7, trading someone else's chart. If success is external, it always moves further away. If success is internal, it becomes infinite. Depending on material things for fulfillment guarantees disappointment. Understand that. This is what I just said, where it's just like the internal success becomes infinite because there's always something that you can get better at, because we'll never be perfect beings, which means the game goes on forever. And therefore, you got to enjoy the journey, because you'll always be on the journey. Your starting point is your destination point, and the journey is the journey is what you want to work on, because you have to get to a point where you actually enjoy going into the session and having the temptation of doing something that you're not supposed to do, but also having the free will to choose the right answer, to choose to follow your rules, even when temptation's right there. When you're thinking, when you start to think in possibilities, oh, if I size up a little bit, oh, this is an A+ setup, I might as well take advantage of this. Oh, I got a 70% win rate, I might as well size up some. You have these possibilities that enter your mind, and you have these temptations, and then you have that other side that's very quiet, right? That's very quiet. This side is loud. It's loud, right? And the other side was telling you, hey, you'll be back tomorrow. This is going to be a forever thing. This is a long-term thing. Just go ahead, follow your rules. And even if you lose, you know that you did exactly what you were supposed to do. So the losses will be easier to take. And from there on, you just come back tomorrow, bro. It's all good. Relax, chill, right? That voice is so quiet, and it's hard to choose it when you got something just loud in your ear, right? And you just think about all these possibilities. But the fact of the matter is, every single trade you take is just a base hit and compounding to your long-term longevity and your long-term success, because one trade is not going to change your life. And even if it does, like whatever you make, however much money you make, is going to revert back to your mental cap. Because think about it. Why do people that win the lottery go broke within 5 years or less? Why does that happen? If I win $10 million in the lottery, $10 million, you put that in the S&P, you put that somewhere, and you're rich forever, and you should be good. But majority of people go broke because it's not the money that makes them. It's not the external that makes them. It's not the material things that make them successful. The truth is going to be revealed one way or another. All that shit reflects back to you and your mindset, okay? So don't depend on external things to get that fulfillment, because once you get that fulfillment from external things and you achieve it, then you're going to have like this emptiness, and you're not going to know what to do next, right? That's why a lot of successful people, I don't know if you ever watch interviews, but there's a lot of successful people, a lot of wealthy people that get everything that their hearts desired. They got everything. And then when they beat, quote unquote, the game of life, right, or the game of capitalism, it's like they don't have anything left, and they got to search for a deeper meaning because everything's empty. There's nothing for them to get now. There's nothing for them to chase now. There's nothing for them to achieve now on the external. And then a lot of times you'll start to see like these celebrities get older, and then they always talk about, money doesn't buy happiness, or like I had to work on myself, or they become philanthropists and they find more meaningful work to develop their inside self because that's all that mattered in the first place. All right. So your purpose must come from elevation, not achievement. All right. Number 8, you're stuck in a cycle. You probably don't even know it, right? Or maybe you do. But your life only gives you what your internal setting allows you to receive. If you wait for external results to shift your identity, you stay range bound forever. Expectations rise, your identity stays flat, so your life doesn't go anywhere. That's crazy. All right? That is crazy. So what I'm getting at here is you will only get what you believe that you deserve. You will only get what you believe that you deserve. If you don't think that you deserve much, or you think that you deserve the world, makes all the difference in the world. All right. So if you wait for these external things to validate you, bro, you already lost the game. All right. You have to validate yourself. You got to cultivate a relationship with yourself. You got to learn yourself. You got to dig deep and learn. Like, you really got to have a relationship with yourself as if you're your own best friend. Real talk. Because if you do not, and you're waiting for everything else to validate you, then those things can control you. All right. That's why you're having a lot of emotional volatility, is because you're reacting to how you perceive the market and not responding to it. All right. And then setting the terms. Because at least when you react, right, it's like something happens, and then by default, autopilot, innately, you just react to what just happened. But when you respond, right, you respond, something happens, you observe it, see how you perceive it, you're being patient, you're giving it time, you're observing, and then you ask yourself, okay, I see how I'm feeling right now, but what's really going on? And if you can create that space, that will change the trajectory of your trading journey and your trading success. And the way that you can do that is by meditating, because once you meditate like 20, 30 minutes a day, it allows you to remain present and creates that time that you need to observe what's going on without your emotions blinding you and causing you to react. It creates that time, that space that you need to be like, okay, what just happened? All right, let me observe this. I know this is how I'm perceiving it, because I normally perceive it like this, but I also know the truth, which is I got stopped out. Let me wait a second. Let me go for a 5-minute walk. Let me come back, take a couple deep breaths, step away from the screen. Let me come back and see if I can find one more valid setup, or I can just stop for the day. Now you're thinking logically. Okay. So when your expectations rise from how you're supposed to live, but your identity stays flat, meaning you're not making that decisive decision to be who you want to be, and you're not technically stepping in or embodying that role, your life is not going to move. Your identity is going to have to rise. Your expectations are going to have to stay flat, and then you'll have the world. All right. The cycle breaks only when that internal shift comes first. Your mindset stays as support while your goals your mindset stays as support while your goals expect resistance breaks. The market will never trend if you don't. That's a bar from ChatGPT. I needed help with that one, and it helped me out a lot. All right. So, number 9, emotional dependency on outcomes. When you rely on external results to validate you, you create emotional leverage. And we all know whenever you trade with leverage, you get burnt. So just keep that in mind. You need wins to feel okay, so losses tilt you instantly. This dependency keeps you stuck in the loop of almost successful. What gets you on tilt is the fact that you are emotionally attached to each individual trading outcome, which goes against the entire game that you're playing, which is a game of probabilities and the law of large numbers. And in order to win the game of probabilities and law of large numbers, that you have to attach your emotions to 1, the math, And two, over a large sample size of 100 to 300 trades. And don't worry about every individual trade because there's a random distribution between wins and losses. And if there's a random distribution between wins and losses, then that means if you attach your emotions to these random wins and losses, then that means your emotions are going to be random and you're no longer predictable. And if you're not predictable, then understand that you're going to experience a fear, because nothing is scarier than walking into a session not knowing how you're going to respond because you have no self-control and you're unpredictable. Having a neutral perspective is the skill that frees you from sabotage. That's going back to meditating. Having a neutral perspective. Losses are nothing more than a door you have to walk through in order to get to your wins. Okay? Once you take a loss, it's only as big as you make it. You have to have neutrality between wins and losses. The same way that you treat your wins is the same way you got to treat your losses, and the same way you treat your losses is how you treat your wins. And I always tell a lot of my traders, they'll go on green streaks. Like I'm talking about, they'll make like thousands in a week or thousands in a month, and I'll be like, listen, take a break. Just as if you would have blew up your account, went on tilt, and you're emotionally exhausted, take a break. If you have a killer month, a killer week, or even a killer day, take a break. How you treat one is how you need to treat the other. Okay? But overall, like a neutral perspective will always win. You always have to level yourself out. You got to level your ego out, because if you do not, the market will level it out for you. All right. There's this cycle that I talk about in a lot of my content where, it's called the blowup cycle, right? So let's say ideally, right, we're in our flow state. We're trading the best that we ever have, right? We're taking losses, but they don't bother us. We're taking wins, they don't bother us. And then the more trades we take, the more emotionally and mentally exhausted we get, which means our emotions start to leak out and we get more emotionally dependent on each and every trade, right? So now we're growing an attachment. And from growing that attachment, then we start making subtle mistakes. And from those subtle mistakes, because of that emotional attachment, those mistakes get bigger because we have too much of an ego to actually take a break. And then when they get bigger, we go on tilt or experience huge drawdown or blow up the account. Then we're going into forced recovery because we mentally can't take anymore and we're going through emotional and mental turmoil and trauma. And then we come back into the trading session after a week break or something like that, a forced recovery, and then we go back into our flow state. All of these things are okay, but if we can take out and remove tilt, right? Relieve our ego and be like, you know what? I'm messing up right now. Let me go ahead and take a break. Let me journal and let me see what's going on internally and see how I can fix it with, daily trading goals. That's how you do it, right? But you got to have a neutral perspective. You have to come from a place of humility. You understand? And calm your ego. So then we have number 10. The internal shift equals breakout to all-time highs. Self-sabotage ends when you make an internal shift so deeply that reality doesn't need to change for you to stay grounded. You become good with success and good without it, fully neutral. Success then arrives because you stopped chasing it and you welcomed it. I worded it this way because a lot of people, may or may not align to certain types of spirituality, but I actually stole this from this guy called Neuro Knowledge, where he defines, and I know that, the whole manifestation thing gets a certain rap, but he defines it differently. He doesn't define it as, you speak it into existence and all this, and you just got to think and believe it and all that. He doesn't define it as that. He defines manifestation as being able to make an internal shift to such a degree where you are no longer emotionally dependent on seeing your reality change. You're good with it and you're good without it. But I put it in these terms so it can be more, acceptable to everybody watching this. But I just had to, let him know that I got that from him. But your self-sabotage will end when you make an internal shift. And what is that internal shift, right? That internal shift could be making the decision that you are a successful trader now and that you will have standards moving forward, and that these are the things that you're going to do to work on self-mastery. Self-mastery is nothing more than, you telling yourself what you're going to do, your word is law, and you following through on it. And once you do that, you build self-trust and conviction in everything that you do. And once you build it to a certain level where you can trust yourself and you have conviction in your actions and your own word to yourself, then at that point, the responsibility of that comes with success no longer can be weighed as a burden, because you know that you're going to follow through with everything that you're going to say. Everything is based on self-trust and how well you trust yourself. Everything, how well can you hold your word to yourself? Whenever you say that you're going to do something, you're either adding and contributing to your trust bank or you're taking it out, right? And success, it comes at a cost. And you got to be able to, make sure you have to, words are hard. You have to be able to make sure that when success comes at a cost, you have enough money in your trust bank that you build within yourself to be able to afford it. Okay. So you got to make an internal shift, i.e. self-mastery. Your word is law. Whatever you say that you're going to do, you're going to follow through on it, right? Increasing your self-trust and conviction within yourself, right? And you have to do this to a point where you don't need to see your reality or your world or materialistic things in order to validate you or make you believe that you are something. Your word to yourself is more than enough. And you become good with success and you come good without it. You're fully neutral. Success then arrives because you stop chasing it and you welcomed it. Trading success isn't something that you have to create. It's already created. You just have to make yourself attractive enough to welcome it. Like I said before. So how do you make yourself attractive? You have to be grateful for all the successes that you have already. And you have to treat them right? So how do you do that? You just sit here and you be a good steward of what you have. If you have an account with $2,000 in it, or max drawdown of $2,000, how well do you take care of that $2,000? Do you manage your risk? Do you execute your trades properly? Right? You got to be a good steward of that $2,000. So how the hell? Because if you can't be a good steward of $2,000, $20,000 over here is going to be looking at that $2,000 down there and be like, oh, he is not taking care of baby 2,000 right there. What makes you think he's going to take care of big 20,000 right here, or big 200,000 right there? You just got to be a good steward of what you already have. And once you make yourself a good steward, everybody's going to want to be with you or be stewarded by you, taken care of by you. Something to think about. Okay? Internal expansion comes from external elevation every single time. Bars. You stop predicting price and start responding to structure. The market finally becomes clear. You stop predicting price. All right? You stop predicting price and start responding to structure. Then the market finally becomes clear. All right. So, number 11, last but not least, infinite purpose equals infinite trend. When your purpose comes from internal progress, known as self-mastery, not external achievement, you become limitless. The journey never ends as long as you continuously work on yourself. It only ends to the day that you die. Okay, which means you're limitless every single day that you're here. There is no end all be all. You simply grow, refine, evolve, and rise. This destroys the self-sabotage cycle because elevation has no ceiling and your only responsibility is to grow, which alleviates all the responsibilities that you think that you need to carry and adhere to by making the change that you need in order to become a successful trader, which means you no longer need to self-sabotage yourself to get out of a predicament that you view or perceive as heavy, right, and full of pressure, and that you may not be able to meet the expectation, because now the only expectation that you have to meet is to be completely about yourself and continuously grow, right? To only focus on yourself and your own growth. And that's already in your own self-interest. So you kill several birds with one stone. A trader committed to mastery always have another level. The trend never ends. Okay. So, with that being said, I did you guys a favor, right? Stop sabotaging trading success. I made a bunch of little check boxes that you can use. The document is going to be in the link. You can download the document. The link is going to be in the description below, so you can have this and use it every single day to kill your self-sabotaging traits, okay? So the first thing is Update your internal rule book by acting from the successful version of you now. All right. Stop living in I'm in the making mode and embody the trader you claim to be before proof arrives. Break your comfort baseline by refusing to revert to your old self when pressure hits. Right. In the heat of the moment, in that pressure where you feel your emotions rising, say for example you get stopped out and you lost your trade for the day, once you feel that temptation to go back in, the moment that is an opportunity for you to break that cycle and choose the decision that you know that you should, that the successful trader that you decided to become will choose. Okay. Face the real fear of success by accepting the responsibility that comes with winning. Okay. Reframe responsibility as light so growth feels natural instead of heavy. Define what happens after the payout so success isn't a dead end. Shift success from external to internal by basing your purpose in elevation, not rewards. Perform the internal shift first instead of waiting for life to change before you do. Cut emotional dependency on outcomes and trade from neutrality and not validation. Build internal stability so you're grounded whether results rise or fall. And this is pretty deep because you need to be able to, there's one thing that I always tell myself every morning that's even in my notes when I journal each one of my trades. I set up as a template and it's always right there. And one thing that I've always told myself is that I will not look for safety and validation outside of myself. I won't look for safety in money. I won't look for safety in anything that I may own. If it's a house, if it's a car, if it's anything, I will not look for safety outside of myself, nor validation. So, in the last thing, choose an infinite purpose by committing to lifelong mastery instead of finite goals. All right. So, that's the video. I hope it helped you out. Hope it gave you some perspective. Download this document, and I'll see you in the next one.